Hi everyone. I hope you enjoyed Mr. Hadfield's amazing presentation and are feeling super inspired. It is my complete honor to be sitting here with Dr. Ջիմ, and I have to say this in Armenian, Բաղյան, an American physician, engineer, and former NASA astronaut. He doesn't want me to talk about all of the hours that he logged with NASA as an astronaut, but after leaving NASA in 1995, Dr. Bաղյան was elected as a member of the Institute of Medicine. He was also elected as a member into the National Academy of Engineering in 2000 for the integration of engineering and medical knowledge in applications to aerospace systems. He's currently the director of the Center for Healthcare Engineering and Patient Safety at the University of Michigan. And he has dedicated his career on creating solutions that will make healthcare safer, more effective, and efficient for patients. We are so happy to have you in Armenia, Dr. Bաղյան. Thank you for being here. So, you know, when we were looking at all of the guests who were going to come to Starmus, your name obviously caught our eye because it ends in IAN. Is this your first time in Armenia?
Yes, it is. Yes.
And how are you finding it?
It's been a real pleasure. I've only been here 5 days and had a chance to look around, at least around the city, quite a bit, and just very impressed and feel totally at home. Everybody's very friendly. I've enjoyed it a lot. I look forward to the next week. I'll be here to see even more.
And as an Armenian American, how does your Armenian American story begin?
Well, my grandparents were born in Western Armenia, I guess it's now part of Turkey, and they immigrated around 1903. They weren't married, they were children, young adults. And then they married my father, and my uncles and aunt were all born here as first generation. But you know, there was always a great emphasis, you know, on being Armenian. And I think the one thing, it wasn't unique probably to Armenians, but it was very strongly inculcated into us. You know, this is what you do, is that you should always do your best. You should learn all you can. That while they always wanted us to do as well in school as we could, I can remember when I was 6 years old, and I asked about, I got a report card, and I had all A's. And when I went back to school the next day, your parents had to sign your report card to show that they, you know, you gave it to them. And one of the other boys in my class said, "Oh, I got $1 for every A I got," and I had more A's than him. And I went home that evening and I said to my father, "I didn't get any money. Why did I only get $1 for every A?" And he said, and I'll never forget it, he says, "We don't pay for getting good grades." He goes, "Your job is to do the best you can. And that's all a person can do. And if you can," I almost have tears coming to my eyes, I can remember him saying this. And he said, "If you can look me in the eye and say you did your best, that's all any person can ever do." So he says, "That's all I ask you. Do your best all the time." And that is, and I never got an award for getting, I was first in my class through grammar school, college, and all. I never got an award. I mean, I knew to appreciate it, and I think that was good, but it was, you had to be self-directed. That, you know, knowledge gave you a power, knowledge that people can't take away from you. The more you know, the more you understand in the world around you, and the more questions that come up, because you understand, the more you know you don't know. That there's many things you don't know, and it makes you want to be curious and learn more. And that's what was constantly among, you know, my parents, you know, and certainly in the Armenian side, was always emphasized being curious, understand how things work, never be afraid to ask why, and that really, it's when you look in the mirror, that's the judge, no one else, just that. And I think that was probably in some ways the most intimidating charge to be given by your parents, but they trusted you. You didn't check and say, "Oh, you didn't." They would just ask you, and if you can look me in the eye and say you did, then I'm happy.
I think that really resonates with us at Teach for Armenia and all of our students sitting here. you know, all of our kids are on very different paths, but what we try to instill in them is this understanding that if you just try your best every single day, that's the most you can do. And I think as, you know, coming from a family of survivors after the Armenian genocide in Turkey, and then recently with the war that took place in Armenia, I couldn't agree more that people can take a lot away from you, but what they can't take away is your education and your knowledge. So thank you for sharing that. Speaking of school, you said you were first of your class in school and in college. What was your favorite subject?
Well, my favorite subjects were science, you know, and math, science, but they're both very related, right? But science, I mean, I did well in all of them, but I had to make myself, to a certain extent, more in the like literature. So as I got older, I realized, I mean, I think I did okay. I mean, I got a good grade, but those are very important because if you have knowledge, you have skills, you don't do them by yourself. You do them with other people. And if you can't communicate effectively with them, then you can't work together, even if we were organizing this today. I think the key was that we communicated and had everybody standing in one room at one time, even if it was 10 minutes ago. Help make it clear so everybody understood what they were there to do and how each person could play their role. And you can be the smartest person, the most knowledgeable person in the world, but if you can't communicate that to the people you're trying to work with, then you're worthless. You may as well have no knowledge because you can't employ it. You know, virtually none of us do things that are strictly for ourselves, that don't affect other people. And if we don't understand how to communicate effectively, then we can't accomplish the goals we're trying to accomplish for ourselves, for others, for our community. And I think that's important. I mean, I'll admit, an area of huge ignorance for me is I do not speak Armenian. And I feel very embarrassed that I don't. And I know many of the coordinators we've had here, the volunteers that have helped us, that I can't say enough good things about them, that they're, you know, they're in their mid-teens and they're very fluent in English. Lucky for me that they are. But they also communicate well, they problem solve well, and I think I wish I did more of that, and I didn't, so we all can learn more.
Well, you can still learn. We can teach you.
Yeah, I hope.
Many of our students sitting here today are actually contemplating what they want to do in their lives and, you know, where they want to go to university, what kind of education they want to get, what kind of job they want to have. As someone who's been in space, what would your advice be to our students right now? How can they think big and not be scared of thinking in that big way?
I think it's, you know, can be intimidating, you know, to say, can I do that? You know, you see whether it's on TV or you're looking at a YouTube video or you see something posted on Facebook or TikTok or whatever, and you wonder, could I do that, right? Which is a natural thought. But, you know, and as you heard Chris Hatfield say just a little bit ago, it's like you have to decide what you want to do, and I think that's right. I think my story was a little different than his. When I was young, as a Cub Scout, or Boy Scouts, you had to make a scrapbook about something. I did it about the space program. And I did that the month before Yuri Gagarin and Alan Shepard flew. That's how long ago it was. I was 8 years old. And then I thought, well, by the time I was in high school, just entering high school, I said, that's unrealistic. No one gets to be, you know, an astronaut or president of the United States. So I was always going to go to engineering school. I was always going to be a pilot. But I thought I won't think about that anymore. And I think that was a good thing in a way, that I did things I wanted to do. I did them because I was interested in doing them. And if you're interested in doing them and have a passion for it, then you probably can do your best. It's hard to do your best in something you don't like. You know, not that I didn't take courses that I didn't like, you know, and try to do my best, but you really give your all to that. And then I was an engineer, I went to medical school, and I had a similar ad that you saw in Chris Hatfield's thing. I was in between surgeries in the hospital, and there was a magazine that was slow cleaning the floor in the room, and it said NASA taking application for space shuttle astronaut. And I wrote away for it, got it back. It seemed pretty intimidating, and I'm filling it out. Never heard anything back, and I started my residency, and I got a call one night, and they said, are you still interested in being an astronaut? And that was in the first astronaut selections for shuttle.
So you were a practicing surgeon when you...
I was in training as a resident as a surgeon. And then that changed my life when I went there. And the point was, you see the other astronauts that you meet, They're normal people. You know, they've done well at what they've excelled at what they've done. They're, you know, they have determination, you know, self-discipline. But they have the same concerns, you know, or how their kids doing in school. Can they train their new dog so it doesn't soil the carpet in their house? I mean, I remember meeting, you know, the first George Bush at the White House and Barbara, and they were showing us the dog that had the puppies in their bathtub in their bedroom. They said, "Oh, come see the puppies." Here's the President of the United States and his wife showing the puppies, and then we were there a couple of years later, and one of the puppies was bigger, and one of the sons had given it back because he couldn't train him, and the president says, "Oh, don't let him jump up on you. One of our sons couldn't train him, so now we have it." Here's the President of the United States has to worry about how to train a dog. People are people, and I think that's the thing to learn, that, you know, they all take their own routes, but do the best you can that you're interested in, you have a passion for, and where there's a will, I think generally there's a way. You just can't give up.
So you're saying it's not too late for me either?
No.
Something to consider. My mom was hinting that maybe the next thing I do is become an astronaut. I just want to give our students a heads up that you will have an opportunity just in a little bit to ask Dr. Bաղյանի your questions. So if you'd like to line up and talk to one of the coordinators, please do. Dr. Bաղյանի, when you get to space, and the first time you did it, what was like the most singular, dominating thought that crossed your mind as you peered out of the window?
Well, I think, one, the amount of distance you can see, for one. You know, when you have your head right against the window, you can see about 1,000 miles in any direction. But yet the human eye is so, has such capability for resolution to be able to see, that you can fly over, if the lighting was right, over a runway at an airport where they have those big white rectangles. You can see those with your naked eye. You don't need binoculars. You can see ship wakes, you know, the wake from a ship as it goes through the ocean if the sun's right, over 1,000 miles long. You see this line, and you look up the line, oh, there's a freighter, you know, up ahead, a cargo ship. I remember flying, I grew up in Philadelphia in the U.S., and I remember I could see the football field 2 blocks from my parents' house. Just looking down, I was overhead Washington, D.C., so Philadelphia is to the north about 130 miles, and with my naked eye, I could see there's the football field, there's my high school over there. It was interesting, you could see that kind of detail. I think the other was that, unlike most maps, when you look at them, they show the political boundaries, the boundaries of countries or provinces or states, and those lines don't exist. So when you flew over the central United States, it's kind of all the same. And there were other folks that were from the Midwest, and I said, well, where are we? And everybody goes, I'm not sure. And unless there's a river or a mountain or something unusual, it's hard to see. And, you know, we think that way off of what state we're in, what country we're in, and yet that's an invention of humans. That's not what it is.
My other question following that was, did it fundamentally change the way you think about politics and issues that we on Earth face?
I think it maybe just reinforced. I don't think it changed. I mean, people are people, and I think one of the things, not from flying in space so much, I think, but from some of the unique opportunities and the privilege of, you know, I feel lucky that I was selected as an astronaut. There's no doubt in my mind, and I think any other astronaut would tell you, that it's not like there's no other people in the world that could do their job. I think they're going to be kidding themselves if they think that's the case. We're very fortunate to be able to do that, very lucky. And I think one of the things that comes with that is you meet very many people, just as I've been meeting people here in Armenia this week and many other countries I've been to, other places in the United States. And meeting these different people, you see there's many more things that make us the same things that concern us, you know. How is our family doing? How are our kids doing? How are our friends doing, you know? Am I going to get the leak in the roof of my house fixed in time? I mean, these are everyday things that everybody deals with. And I think sometimes we start to label people or think of people about, do they agree with me? And then try to say, well, why do they disagree? We may disagree, but why? And is it truly a real disagreement, or we're talking about the fine point of how to get to maybe a similar goal? And I think it helps to do that. I don't think it's a new thought, but I think it helps reinforce the fact that we're much more alike than we are different.
And my last question before we pass the baton to our kids, who was your favorite teacher?
My favorite, I can easily answer that. In fact, I talked to him about a year ago, and he's in his mid-80s now. It was my physics teacher in high school. He had gone to my high school, it turned out. He was also an engineer. I think worked his age, came back and taught, and he was always humorous, extremely good teacher, extremely technically knowledgeable. He gave tests that were, I didn't realize at the time, at an engineering college level. And when I went to engineering school, I knew more than the graduate students that were teaching us. You know, I just coasted through, but it was because he used to say, physics is fun, boys. You know, and he never required you to come to class. We always did. He said, if you don't want to come, don't come. This is for people who want to learn. If you want to learn, I think you'll have fun. If you don't want to learn, I won't report you. You'll still have to take the test. I treated it like adults, but he made physics fun, and I think physics is the mother of all sciences. And I think it gave me a very good foundation, and his attitude, just his demeanor, the way he was almost like one of the kids himself, though he wasn't, made you want to do well in that class, whether you liked it or not. And even other fellows that didn't do as well always felt it was a good class. They enjoyed the class, and they enjoyed what they got out of it. So, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. I shouldn't say it because it's my security. I won't say his name. It's my security thing on my. You forgot your password. Who is your teacher?
Do you think it's a coincidence that you chose this career path? Was it because of him?
No, I don't think so. My father had been. I don't think it was because my father, but he had been a fighter pilot in World War II. He was well decorated, and he always enjoyed flying. So I just really enjoyed it. So we kind of had a love for aviation. And I think that's. But he didn't say go be an astronaut. He said do whatever you enjoy doing. So. Just be curious.
Be curious. Thank you so much. Do we have some questions from the audience?